Hello friends, welcome to the world of Companies Act 2013. I, Professor Kunal Shah, on behalf of JK Shah Classes, is over here to present you all the revisionary lectures for Companies Act 2013. Yes, my dear friends, in this revisionary lectures, we are going to cover the recent amendments which are being given by ICAI through the RTP issued for the students of inter-CA level appearing for December 2021 exams. So yes, my dear friends, let us begin with the very first chapter of our Companies Act 2013 to be revised, that is chapter number 1, preliminary. In this chapter, we are going to revise the introductory part of Companies Act 2013. Along with it, characteristics of a company, lifting of a corporate will, and yes, we are also going to revise various forms of companies, that is private company, public company, non-profit company, holding subsidiary, one person company, small company, etc. So let us begin our journey for the revisionary part of chapter number 1 of Companies Act 2013. First of all, we need to understand the meaning of the word company. The word company is been actually derived from Latin terms com and panis. It is been derived from a Latin term com and panis. Com stands for with or together, whereas panis stands for meals or bread. When both of these words are getting combined, it means having meals together, having meals together. So, the meaning of the word company has been derived from Latin words which says about having meals together. The definition of the word company is given under section number 2, clause 20 of Companies Act 2013. Yes, my dear friends, the word company has got an exhaustive definition, because inside the definition of the word called as company, the word is being used called as means, and whenever the definition comprises of the word called as means, then such definitions are exhaustive in nature. The lawmaker over here says company means a company which is incorporated either under the provisions of Companies Act 2013 or under any of the previous law relating towards company. The company is a company which is either incorporated as per the provisions of Companies Act 2013 or it can be incorporated as per the provisions of any of the previous law related towards company. The word previous law is actually defined under section 2, clause 67. The word previous law is actually defined under section 2, clause 67. Over here, whenever we talk about the meaning of the word company, to always and always remember it is a company which will either be incorporated as per the provisions of Companies Act 2013 or it is already been incorporated as per the provisions of previous law related towards company. Yes, my dear friends, our Companies Act 2013 is applicable to which all companies? So the lawmaker over here says that Companies Act 2013 is applicable to all companies which are incorporated under this act. In fact, it is also applicable upon a company which is incorporated under any of the previous company law. Yes, Companies Act 2013 is also applicable upon an insurance company. Generally, insurance companies have to follow Insurance Act 1938 or IRDA Act. But whenever we talk about insurance company, so yes, they have to also follow the provisions of Companies Act 2013. But whenever there is a dispute between the provisions of Companies Act 2013 and its own law, that is the Insurance Act, then in that case, insurance companies will have to follow their own act, that is Insurance Act or IRDA. Similar way, whenever there is a banking company, then generally a banking companies have to follow Banking Regulation Act 1949. But along with Banking Regulation Act 1949, they also need to follow the provisions of Companies Act 2013. But whenever there is any kind of dispute between the provisions of Companies Act 2013 and Banking Regulation Act 1949, then the banking companies will have to follow the provisions of Banking Regulation Act 1949. Similarly, whenever your company is engaged into the generation or supply of electricity, whenever your company is engaged into the generation or supply of electricity, then your company is bound to follow Electricity Act 2003. Along with Electricity Act 2003, you also need to follow the provisions of Companies Act 2013. But whenever there is a dispute between your own act and Companies Act 2013, then in that case, electricity companies will have to fulfill the provisions of Electricity Act 2003. The lawmaker over here says that if your company is being governed by any special act, if your company is being governed by any special act, then your company will have to follow that special act along with the provisions of Companies Act 2013. But if there is a dispute, then yes, the company will have to follow their special act itself. In a similar way, if you are a body corporate which has been incorporated by any act for the time being in force, and through the notification of central government you are operative, then in that case you have been bound to follow your own specific act itself. And along with it, you are also bound to follow the provisions of Companies Act 2013. But whenever there is a dispute, you can follow your own specific law. Over here, let us move on towards the next topic, that is about characteristics of a company. Whenever we talk about characteristics of a company, yes, we are also talking about a concept called as advantages of doing a business in a form of a company, or you can also say features of doing a business in a form of a company. The very first feature, the very first characteristic we need to revise over here is about separate legal entity. It is about separate legal entity. The moment the company gets incorporated, yes, in the eyes of law, the company gets its own separate legal identity. The company gets its own separate legal existence. The company gets its own separate legal personality. In the eyes of law, company is a different person and we are a different person. If you compare Reliance Industries Limited and Mr. Mukesh Ambani, so yes, there is something called a separate legal entity between them. In the eyes of law, Reliance is a different person, whereas Mr. Ambani is a different person. So when this happens only and only when the company is incorporated. So each and every company which has been incorporated under the provisions of Companies Act, all those companies will be enjoying one of the characteristics called as separate legal entity, which means in the eyes of law, the company has got its own separate legal identity. The company has got its own separate legal status. Over here, we have done a case study during our regular lecture, and the case study was about Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. Over here, the next characteristic is about the limited liability. The next characteristic is about the limited liability. Whenever you are a member in a company which is limited by shares, you are a member in a company which is limited by shares, then yes, in that case, the liability of every member is limited. It is limited only and only towards the unpaid value of shares. However, if the shares are fully paid up, then in that case, the liability of every member is nil. If the shares of our members are being fully paid up, then yes, there is nothing more to pay, which means the liability is nil. The third characteristic is about perpetual succession, that is continuous living. A company which is incorporated never dies. See, a company comes into existence through operation of law, and that company can die through operation of law. Through the process of incorporation, the company came into existence, and yes, through the process of winding up, that is liquidation, the company will die. So over here, whenever you are doing a business in a form of a company, you are going to enjoy a characteristic called as perpetual succession. The members of the company will come and go. The members of the company will come and go, but the company goes on and on and on forever. The death of a member does not affect the working of a company. The death of a member does not affect the working of a company. The next characteristic is about separate property. Yes, if you are the owner of the company, but that does not make you the owner of the assets owned by the company. Yes, being a company, it can purchase assets in its own name. So whatever are the assets belonging to the company, it belongs to the company itself. Even if you are going to purchase the entire shares of that company, still you won't be considered as the owner of the assets owned by the company. The next characteristic is about transferability of shares. Yes, section number 44 of Companies Act 2013. Section number 44 of Companies Act 2013 has said that shares of every company are transferable in nature. Just like a movable property, the shares are transferable in nature. If you are a public company, then the shares are freely transferable. But if you are a private company, then the shares are transferable but with certain restrictions. Shares are transferable but with certain restrictions. The next point is about the common seal, that is nothing but the signature of the company. Before the years of 2015, it was mandatory for a company to have a common seal. Before the years of 2015, it was mandatory for a company to have a common seal. But since 2015, there was an amendment which says that common seal is completely optional. If the company wants to have a common seal, they will have a common seal. If the company does not want to have a common seal, it won't have a common seal. Sir, if the company does not have a common seal, then how the documents will be authenticated? In that case, the lawmaker says the powers will be given to two directors of the company to sign on behalf of the company, or else it will be signed by one director and one company secretary whenever the company has appointed a company secretary. The next characteristic says that the company has a capacity to get sued, and the company has also got a capacity to sue someone. So company is an artificial person. Yes, an artificial person can file a case upon another person, and yes, even another person can file a case upon the company. So company can sue and company can also get sued. There is also about something called as separate management. See, the members of the company are the owners of the company, but the entire company is being managed by the board of directors. The entire company is being managed by board of directors. If Kunal Shah is the member of Reliance Industries Limited, so I as a member cannot manage Reliance Industries Limited. But if Kunal Shah is been appointed as a director, see, now I'm working as a director. So as a director, I can be held responsible for the management of the company. So in a company, there is something called a separation of ownership and management. The company is owned by members, whereas the company is managed by the board of directors. Who appoints the board of directors? So it is the members who usually appoints the board of directors. If I am a member of a company, I am not allowed to manage a company as a member. But if I am getting appointed as a director, then yes, as a director, I am allowed to manage the affairs of the company. The next provision is about the voluntary association for profit. Yes, in a company, the people have voluntarily come together in order to form an association, and this association will be working in order to generate some profits. And whatever is the profits getting generated, that profits will be divided amongst its shareholders. Whatever is the profit being generated, it will be divided amongst its shareholders. The next provision says that is a company has got a citizenship? The answer is no. A company does not enjoy the citizenship. But yes, a company has got nationality. A company has got nationality. The next concept over here is about lifting or piercing the corporate will. See, whenever I say a corporate will, so it's a kind of a covering which will never be seen, but because of this corporate will, we are able to enjoy a characteristic called as separate legal entity. Because of this corporate will, we can firmly say that company is a different person and we are different. Company is a different person and we are different. See, it is the corporate will which distinguishes between the artificial person and the natural person. Because of this corporate will, we are able to enjoy a concept called as separate legal entity, which was one of the advantage of doing a business in a form of a company. But sometimes this advantage was being used as an unfair advantage. Sometimes this advantage was being used as an unfair advantage. Many a times it was been seen that few natural person used to do some kind of bad activity but in the name of the company. When it gets caught, then they used to blame upon the company and the company was getting punished for same, which was not justified, So we have got a concept over here called as lifting of a corporate will. The corporate will be lifted, and the moment the corporate will gets lifted, separate legal entity ceases to exist. The moment the corporate will gets lifted, separate legal entity ceases to exist. Over here, if the corporate will got lifted, the separate legal entity ceases to exist, which means from now onwards, there won't be any kind of difference between artificial person and natural person. In the eyes of law, both of them will be considered at par. Both of them will be considered at par. For example, I am the member of the company and this is the company. Because of separate legal entity, we are two different persons. But if I start doing some kind of bad activities in the name of the company, if I start doing some kind of bad activities in the name of the company, and later on when I get caught, then I used to blame upon the company, then yes, it is the company which is getting punished and not me. But this was not justified because it was my bad activity which was done in the name of the company. It was my bad activity which was done in the name of the company. I was just safeguarding my position, which is not correct, In order to overcome such kind of an activity, we have got a concept called as lifting of a corporate will. Me as a member and there is a company, so yes, there will be a corporate will between me and the company. That corporate will was distinguishing me from the company. Because of that corporate will, there was something called as separate legal entity. But now, when I have done a bad activity in the name of the company, the corporate will gets lifted, and now in the eyes of law, Mr. Kunal Shah and his company will be considered as one and the same. Whatever was the liability getting inside the shoes of an artificial person, all that liability will now step inside the shoes of natural person, that is Mr. Kunal Shah. However, in our CA Foundation days, we had got a very in-depth knowledge about lifting or piercing the corporate will along with various case studies. But at our inter-CA level, we need to just understand what is a corporate will, what is the effect of corporate will, and yes, what will be happening when the corporate will gets lifted. Nothing else, nothing else. So over here till now we have completed the revisionary part towards the introductory of Companies Act 2013, characteristics of a company, and we have also revised a concept called as lifting of a corporate will. So let us move on towards the next concept of this chapter, that is classification of companies. The next concept, that is classification of companies. Yes, my dear friends, a company can be classified into 5 different headings, that is based on liability, based on members, based on control, based on capital, and based on other forms of companies. We are going to revise everything one after one. We are going to revise everything one after one. The very first heading is about the companies which are being based on liability. On the basis of liability, we got to revise 3 things, that is company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee, and a company having unlimited liability. When I say company limited by shares, so yes, section number 2 clause 22 comes into picture. See, whenever you are a member in a company limited by shares, whenever you are a member in a company limited by shares, then in that case the liability of its members is always and always limited in nature. Sir, limited in nature means how much? Sir, what will be the liability of every member in such a company? The lawmaker says the liability will be only towards the unpaid value of the shares. The liability will be only and only towards the unpaid value of the shares. However, if the shares are fully paid up, then in that case there is no liability. If the shares are fully paid up, then there is no liability. Whenever we talk about a company limited by guarantee, we talk about a company limited by guarantee. So in that case, section number 2 clause 21 comes into picture. Section number 2 clause 21 says that in a company limited by guarantee, the liability of every member is limited towards an amount which is given inside the memorandum of association. The liability of every member in this case will be given as per the memorandum of association. Over here, the amount which is given inside the MOA, that amount will be called only and only when the company goes for the liquidation and not when the company is a going concern. So at the time of liquidation, if the company does not have surplus assets to pay off its liabilities, I repeat, at the time of incorporation, if the company does not have surplus assets to pay off its liabilities, then in that case, the company will be calling out some money from its members and that money will be returned inside the memorandum of association. Over here, if the company has also got a share capital, then in that case the liability of every member will be two-folded. That is, one towards the unpaid value of shares and second towards the guaranteed amount which is given inside the memorandum of association. One towards the unpaid value of shares and second towards the guaranteed amount which is given inside the memorandum of association. The next point is about unlimited liability companies. When I say unlimited liability companies, so yes, section number 2 clause 92 comes into picture. It is section number 2 clause 92 which defines a company having unlimited liability. In this case, the liability of every member will be unlimited in nature. However, your liability will come to an end only when you cease to be a member. Till the time you are a member, your liability will be unlimited in nature. Over here, even the personal property of the members can be held responsible to pay off the debts of the company. Even the personal property of the members can be held responsible to pay off the debts of the company. Whenever I say that you are a member in a company having unlimited liability, then the creditors of the company will be demanding the money from the company, and the company will be demanding the money from its members. None of the members are directly liable to the creditors. No, the members are not directly liable to the creditors. The members are liable to the company, and the company is liable to the creditors. Over here, we have completed one of the topic called as companies based upon liability. Now we have got a concept called as company based upon members, wherein we have got to understand private company, public company, and yes, we got to understand one person company. Yes, my dear friends, there is a recent amendment inside the concept of one person company. There is a recent amendment inside the concept of one person company. First of all, let us first revise the concept of a private company. Let us first revise the concept of a private company. Section number 2, clause 68. Section number 2, clause 68 defines a private company. Lawmaker says private company is a company which has got amongst something called as restriction in transferability of shares. Yes, the shares of a private company are not freely transferable. In fact, they are transferable with certain restriction. In a private company, the maximum number of members can be 200. The maximum number of members can be 200. The lawmaker over here says, if two or more persons are acting as a joint shareholders, then they will be treated as one single member. If two or more persons are jointly holding the shares of a company, then they will be considered as one single member. Lawmaker says that if a private company has issued certain shares to its employees, and such shares are being issued through a scheme called as employee stock option plan, or any kind of other rules, then in that case the person who have got the shares when they were the employees of the company, then those people won't be counted in the list of number of members, which means the employees will not be counted inside the list of members, that is the employees who are holding the shares of the company. Whether the employee has continued their employment with the company or they have left the job with the company, whenever the shares were being given to the employees, they are considered as a shareholder, they are the members of the company, but they are not counted in the list of those 200 members. A private company is being prohibited, to invite any kind of subscription of securities from public at large. In a similar way, a private company is also been prohibited to accept deposits from public at large. Whenever we talk about a private company, so yes, in a private company, there has to be minimum 2 members and there has to be minimum 2 directors. Whenever I talk about a private company, then yes, the name of a private company will be ending with the words called as private limited. The next concept over here is a concept towards public company, and the concept of public company is given under section number 2, clause 71. Section number 2, clause 71 deals with a public company. Lawmaker says a company which is not a private company, a company wherein there are minimum 7 members, then such companies are called as a public company. In a public company, there will be at least 3 directors. And the name of a public company will be always and always ending with the word called as limited. The restrictions which are present inside the articles of a private company, those restrictions won't be applicable inside the articles of a public company. But wait, whenever there is a private company which is a subsidiary of a public company, which means public company is holding a private company. So this private company is to be considered as a subsidiary company. But even being a subsidiary of a public company, even being a subsidiary of a public company, it will continue to follow the restrictions which are given inside the articles of that private company. So if a public company holds a private company, then that private company is assumed to be a public company, but it will still fulfill the provisions of a private company itself. It will still fulfill the provisions of a private company itself. So yes, my dear friends, till now we have revised the concepts towards companies based upon liability, wherein we have revised company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee, and a company having unlimited liability. We also started the revision of next topic, that is companies based on members, wherein we have revised the concept towards private company as well as a concept towards public company. So now let's move on ahead towards the next topic, that is a topic called as one person company. Yes, my dear friends, section number 2, clause 62 of Companies Act 2013 deals with the provisions of one person company. Whenever we talk about one person company, so yes, the lawmaker says that one person company means a company wherein there has only one and only one person as the member of the company. So whenever we talk about one person company, it means a company wherein there has only one person as the member of the company. Basically, every one person company is like a private company, but with some unique features. And what are those unique features we are going to come across in this concept? The lawmaker says that wherever we are going to print the name of our company, or we are going to affix the name of our company, then along with the name of the company, we also need to write down the words called as one person company or OPC below the name of the company in brackets. Over here, whenever you are acting as a one person company, so yes, there will be certain relaxations given to a one person company. For example, when I say a private company, so in every private company there has to be two or more members. But one person company is primarily a private company wherein there will be one and only one person acting as the member of the company. Generally, in a private company, there has to be minimum two directors, but when we talk about one person company, yes, there will be only one director, or there can be more than one, but even if it is only one, it is more than sufficient. Lawmaker says that a one person company is not required to hold any kind of annual general meetings. Whenever we talk about the director's report, then yes, the matters which are required to be there inside the director's report, it has been significantly reduced as compared to other private companies. Yes, the annual return of the one person company will be signed by the company secretary, and in case if there is no company secretary, it can be signed by the director of the company. Over here, normally a company is required to call a board meeting on quarterly basis. Normally, a company is required to call a board meeting on quarterly basis. But in case of a one person company, if there is only one director, then there is no need to call a board meeting. But if the one person company has got more than one director, so in that case it can call a board meeting even on half yearly basis rather than on quarterly basis. But always remember, the gap between the two board meetings should not be less than 90 days. The gap should not be less than 90 days. Whenever we talk about a one person company, so yes, the lawmaker says that in case of a one person company, there will be a fundamental document called as Memorandum of Association. Inside the Memorandum of Association of a one person company, we also need to write down the details of nominee. It is that nominee who will be acting as the member of the company if something happens to the original member of the one person company. Over here, whosoever has been appointed as the nominee, that person can also be changed in over the period of time, which means changes in nominee is always and always allowed. Over here, if we have appointed a nominee and we have taken the consent of that nominee, so later on, if that person wants to withdraw his consent to act as a nominee, it is still allowed. It is still allowed. In fact, if the member of the OPC wants to change the name of the nominee, then even such kind of changes is always and always allowed. But always and always remember that whenever a nominee is going to get appointed in case of a one person company, whenever there is a change in nominee, in that all cases, it is not to be assumed to be alteration of memorandum of association. Very important things, very important thing. Over here, a recent amendment has come. A recent amendment has come. Lawmaker says only and only a natural person who is a citizen of India and who is resident in India or otherwise. So now onwards, remember that even if you are a non-resident Indian, you are allowed to incorporate a one-person company. Previously, only and only a person who was a resident of India was allowed to incorporate a one-person company. But now the lawmaker has made a change and it says that whether you are a resident in India or otherwise, then also you are allowed to incorporate a one-person company. See, when we talk about resident of India, it means that in the previous year you will have stayed in India for 182 days or more, but now that period has been made to 120 days. So if you have stayed in India for a period not lesser than 120 days, then yes, you are to be considered to be a resident of India. Yes, whether you talk about the member of an OPC or whether you talk about the nominee of the OPC, the rule remains the same. The rule remains the same. What is the rule? The rule says that the member and the nominee of the OPC should be a natural person. They should also be a citizen of India. However, if they are resident of India, then also it is fine. If they are not resident of India, then also it is fine. And resident of India over here stands for 120 days or more. If in the previous financial year you will have stayed in India for 120 or more days, then yes, you are considered to be a person called as resident of India. Lawmaker says that if you are a minor, then sorry to say, being a minor, you are not allowed to act neither as the member of OPC nor as the nominee of OPC. A one person company cannot be incorporated or it cannot be converted into section 8 companies. Howsoever, if a one person company wants to voluntarily convert itself into private or public company, then it is completely allowed. Previously, there used to be something called as compulsory conversion of a one person company, but that thing is now been omitted. The provisions towards the compulsory conversion of a one person company is now been omitted. So yes, my dear friends, we have revised a concept called as one person company. Let us move on towards the next concept of this chapter, that is a concept towards a small company. Yes, my dear friends, even the concept of small company will be an important one because there is a recent amendment which has come across inside the concept of a small company as well. So yes, you can firmly say that there is an amendment in case of one person company which we have already studied, and there is also an amendment in case of a small company which we are going to study right now. Over here, the concept of a small company is given under section number 2, clause 85. So henceforth, whenever we talk about a small company, it is section number 2, clause 85, which talks about a small company. Lawmaker says small company means a company. Lawmaker says small company means a company other than public company. Small company means a company other than a public company. So every small company is in the lines of a private company. Every small company is in the lines of a private company. So the very first point is been cleared over here, that the small company is a company which is other than a public company. The paid up capital should not exceed 50 lakhs. However, this limit is now being changed and the revised limit is given over here, which says that the paid up capital should not exceed 2 crores. Instead of 50 lakhs, it is now been made it as 2 crores. The paid up share capital should not exceed 2 crores or any such higher amount as may be prescribed, but which should not be more than 10 crores. The turnover of this company should not be exceeding 2 crores. However, this limit is now being changed and it has been made to 20 crores. The limit is now being changed and it is made to 20 crores. See, the last 3 lines over here is about the amendment part, which I have given in a separate note, so that you guys can also make the necessary changes in your book. So paid up capital previously used to be 50 lakhs, which is now to be made as 2 crores. Turnover previously used to be of around 2 crores, which is now to be made it as 20 crores. So whenever we talk about a small company, it is a company which is other than public company. The paid up capital should not exceed 2 crores or any such other amount which is not exceeding 10 crores. The turnover should not be exceeding 20 crores or any such higher amount not exceeding 100 crores. Whenever we talk about the concept of a small company, always remember the entire concept of small company is not applicable upon these 3 companies. Whether you are a holding company or you are a subsidiary company, whether you are a non-profit company or you are a company or a body corporate which is being governed by a special act. Over here, whenever you are operating as a small company, so yes, there are certain relaxations to be given to a small company. A small company is not required to have something called as a cash flow statement. If they want to have a cash flow statement, they may have it. If they don't want to have a cash flow statement, they won't have it. Whenever we talk about a small company, then yes, in that case, the small company is not required to call a board meeting on quarterly basis. Even if they call a meeting on half yearly basis, it is completely been acceptable. But the gap between the 2 board meetings should not be less than 90 days. And there is one more relaxation given towards mergers or amalgamations. Whenever there are 2 or more small companies which are getting merged together or amalgamated together, then in that case the entire process has been simplified without the requirement of the court process. So yes, my dear friends, we have completed the revisions upon the companies based upon members, wherein we have revised the concept towards private company, public company, one person company, and we have also revised the concept towards a small company. Now we have got a company based on control. Wherein we are going to revise the very first provision, that is holding and subsidiary company. Over here, the concept of subsidiary company is given under section number 2, clause 87. Lawmaker says if any one of the given condition gets fulfilled, then yes, your company is to be considered as a subsidiary company, and the company who has got the majority in your company will be considered as a holding company. Sir, when will we say that a company is a subsidiary company? The lawmaker says whenever in your company some another company has got control inside the number of board of directors. The company which has got the control over the number of board of directors will be called as a holding company, and your company will be called a subsidiary company. Or else it is a company wherein some another company has got more than 1/2 of the total voting power. So inside if your company, my company has got majority into the total voting power, then my company will be considered as a holding company and your company will be considered as a subsidiary company. Or else the last one says that the first mentioned company is a subsidiary of any company which is that others subsidiary. Over here, the lawmaker try to say that if company A is the holding company of company B, which means company B is to be considered as a subsidiary company. But now if I say that company B itself is the holding company of company C, then yes, the relationship between company A and company C will also be about holding and subsidiary company, wherein for company A, company C will be considered as a sub-subsidiary company. It will be considered as a sub-subsidiary company. Sir, there can be how many layers of subsidiaries? The lawmaker says it should not be more than two. It should not be more than two. So if there is a holding company, then yes, below it there will be a subsidiary company. Below that subsidiary company, there can be one more subsidiary, but not beyond that, not beyond that. You can have multiple subsidiaries, but the maximum layers can be two. The maximum layers can be two. See, for example, company A is the holding company having a subsidiary company as company B. Now that company B can have one more subsidiary company called as company C, but it cannot go beyond that. But when I say company A has got multiple subsidiaries, it is allowed, it is allowed, it is allowed. Whenever you talk about holding and subsidiary company, whenever you talk about holding and subsidiary company, always remember that both the companies have got their own separate legal entity. Both the companies have got their own separate legal entity. The lawmaker over here says, that if you are a subsidiary company, you are not allowed to hold shares in your holding company. This we have done with examples in depth during our regular lectures. Section number 19 was been focused very well when we were conducting our regular lectures. Section number 19 has thoroughly said that a subsidiary company is not allowed to hold share of its holding company. But there are three exceptional cases. There are three exceptional cases wherein a subsidiary company will be allowed to hold shares of its holding company. See, if the subsidiary company is holding the shares as the legal representative of the deceased member of the holding company, it is completely allowed. However, if the subsidiary company is holding the shares of its holding company as a trustee, then even in that case it is completely allowed. And the last exceptional case says that the subsidiary company had bought the shares before it became a subsidiary company, then yes, even those shares can be held by him. Even those shares can be held by him. So over here we have successfully understood the concept of holding and subsidiary company. The next one comes over here is an associate company. Section 2 clause 6 defines an associate company. See, whenever you talk about an associate company, it is a company which is other than a subsidiary company. It is a company which is other than a subsidiary company. It is a company wherein another company has got a significant influence. So first of all, it is other than subsidiary company, and it is a company wherein another company has got a significant influence. Whenever we talk about significant influence, so significant influence is an influence which means control of at least 20% towards the total voting power. Control of at least 20% towards the total voting power. Yes, my dear friends, the concept of associate company is a newly inserted concept as per the provisions of Companies Act 2013. The next companies which are based upon capital, the companies which are based upon capital, wherein the very first thing we need to understand is a listed company. Section number 2 clause 52, section number 2 clause 52 defines a listed company, says that a company whose securities are listed on any recognized stock exchange. Whenever the securities of your company has been listed in a recognized stock exchange, then yes, your company is to be considered as a listed company. However, there is an amendment inside this definition. They've added some things. Over here, the lawmaker says that few companies are not to be considered. Few companies are not to be considered as listed companies. Which are those companies? The very first one says that all those public companies who have issued their non-convertible debentures through a private placement basis. All those public companies who have issued non-convertible redeemable preference shares on private placement basis. Yes, the both the categories of above points are to be included. So these companies are to be removed from the definitions of a listed company. The lawmaker says that if you are a private company and if you had listed their securities, that is, for example, you have listed your non-convertible debentures on private placement basis on a recognized stock exchange, so sorry to say, now onwards you won't be considered to be the part of a listed company. Lawmaker says public companies which have not listed their equity shares on a recognized stock exchange but whose equity shares are listed on a stock exchange which is in jurisdiction as per the provisions of section number 23 subsection 3 of Companies Act 2013. In short, you need to just remember that these are the few companies which are to be not considered as listed companies. The next provision we have got to understand over here is a concept called as an unlisted company. Whenever I say unlisted company, it is a company which is other than listed company. It is a company which is other than a listed company. Last category of chapter number 1, that is we need to understand companies based upon other forms of companies, wherein the very first thing we need to understand is about a government company. Section 2 clause 45. Section 2 clause 45 says that government company means a company wherein not less than 51% of the paid up capital is held either by central government or by state government or partly by central government and partly by state government. However, if your company has issued an equity share with differential voting rights, then over here 51% of the total voting power should be considered. Yes, whenever we talk about a government company, then in case of a government company, the auditors are to be appointed by C and AG, that is Comptroller and Auditor General of India. The next concept we need to understand over here is a concept towards a foreign company. What do you mean by a foreign company? Foreign company means a company which is incorporated outside India. The company is incorporated outside India, but the company has got a place of business in India, and the company is conducting its business activities in India in any other manner. So over here, foreign company is a company which is incorporated outside India and the company has got a place of business in India and it is conducting a business activity in India. So let us move on towards the next concept, that is a concept called as companies not for profits or non-profit companies. Yes, my dear friends, section number 8 of Companies Act 2013 deals with the provisions of non-profit company. Whenever we talk about non-profit company, it is a company which is formed to promote charitable objects either towards commerce or arts or science or sports or education or research or social welfare or religion, etc. Any other thing. In short, it is a company which has been incorporated for the benefits of the society. Whenever you talk about a non-profit company, to always and always remember, a non-profit company is prohibited to declare dividends to its members. Yes, whenever there is something called as any kind of surplus arising, then that surplus money should not be distributed amongst the members. In fact, that surplus money should be utilized for promoting the objects of non-profit company. So whenever you are a member of a non-profit company, always and always remember that non-profit company is been prohibited to distribute dividends amongst its members. See, first of all, there won't be any chance of generating profits. But if at all the profit is being generated, then such surplus money should not be distributed amongst the members of the company. In fact, that surplus money should be utilized for promoting the objects of that non-profit company. Whenever you want to operate as a non-profit company, you need to obtain a license from central government. It is central government who has got the power to issue license to a non-profit company. Whenever you are acting as a non-profit company, whenever you are acting as a non-profit company, but only when you get yourself incorporated, then only you will be enjoying the privileges and obligations of a limited company. Generally, a partnership firm is not allowed to become a member of a company, but when it comes to a non-profit company, yes, a partnership firm may be allowed to become a member of a non-profit company. Whenever a non-profit company wants to alter its memorandum and articles, then in that case they need to first take the approval of central government. Without the approval of central government, they are not allowed to alter their memorandum or articles of association. Whenever a non-profit company wants to get itself converted into any other kind of company, then yes, there are certain conditions which are prescribed, has to be complied. Over here, a non-profit company can be amalgamated with another non-profit company only, provided they are having similar objects. They are having similar objects. Yes, my dear friends, if central government has got the power to issue the license, then yes, central government has also got the power to revoke the license. Over here, before revoking the license, the central government will give a written notice of its intention to revoke the license, and opportunity of being heard will be given to the company. However, in practical life, the central government has delegated its powers to the regional directors. So, central government can issue license, but the powers are being delegated to ROC. Central government can revoke the license of a non-profit company, but the powers are being delegated to regional directors. Over here, if the license has been revoked, then in that case the non-profit company will be asked to get itself converted into another type of a company, and it will also be asked to get the name changed. Or else a non-profit company will be asked to go for winding up, and if during winding up there is a surplus of assets as compared to the liabilities, then such surplus assets should not be distributed amongst the members of the company as a regular course of the procedure of winding up. See, whenever a non-profit company is going for a winding up, then in that case, whatever is the surplus assets left out after making the payment to the creditors, that is the liabilities, those surplus assets will be either be transferred to another non-profit company having the similar lines of objects, or else you can realize those surplus assets and the money can be deposited into a fund called as insolvency and bankruptcy fund. However, central government may also order him that the non-profit company be amalgamated with another type of a company which is into the same lines of business. That is, a non-profit company will be asked to get amalgamated with another non-profit company provided they are into the same lines of business. So any one of the order can be given by central government. However, if the provisions of section number 8 is not been fulfilled, then there is a penalty which is been imposed. See, there is a changes, there is an amendment in these penalties as well. There is an amendment in these penalties as well. If the company makes any default in complying with any of the requirements laid down, the company shall be punished with a fine which will be from 10 lakhs to 1 crore rupees. Okay, this is having no change. The directors and every officer who is in default shall be punishable. See, remove these words, imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years. Remove these words. The penalty towards the imprisonment part is been removed. Huh. The penalty of rupees 25,000 but which may extend up to rupees 25 lakh is still there. And also remove the words called as with both. So in short, the provisions, that is the penalties towards the imprisonment part, the penalty towards the imprisonment part is now to be removed, So there will be only and only a monetary penalty in case of contravention of the provisions of section 8. So yes, my dear friends, we have successfully revised the major chunk of chapter number 1, that was preliminary. However, there are 2 or 3 more topics, that is a dormant company, public financial institutes, Nidhi company, etc., which are not to be covered in our revisionary lectures, but howsoever all these concepts have already been covered in our regular lectures. So that's all towards our revisionary part of chapter number 1 of Companies Act 2013, that was preliminary. Thank you so much.